All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. The Niners are not happy with their practice field conditions. We'll talk more about that. This is a story coming out of Las Vegas. Adam Schefter went on the Pat McAfee show and talked about it. We'll let you hear that coming up next, and then we will comment. And, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. And this week in Las Vegas, our trip to Vegas, sponsored by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles, located at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove along the Monterey Peninsula. Give Anthony Catania a call there at 831-521-5264. And we're also brought to you by valleyhillroofing.net. Give them a call at 209-481-6851. And their website link is in the description. All right, the story out of Las Vegas today, Adam Schefter went on the Pat McAfee show on ESPN and says the 49ers are not happy with their practice facility. And you know, that the field is not nearly as good as the field that the Chiefs are practicing on. And so the Niners take the field to practice for the first time today at noon Pacific. And they're training at UNLV. The Chiefs are practicing at the Raiders facility. Okay, supposedly these practice fields were given the okay at mid-season. The NFL has attached what they're saying is a sponge-like sod over the UNLV field turf. And the 49ers feel like it's a hazard and that it's a very much a distinct disadvantage. Now, this UNLV facility is beautiful, right? It's a $230 million brand new facility. And I'm not sure who decided that the Niners would be there as opposed to where the Raiders practice. But it's supposedly the firmness of the natural grass is not to the 49ers liking. And the NFL has said it's not a health or secure or safety issue, that it's simply a preference issue. And that the 49ers, it's really that the field is safe, but the 49ers just don't prefer, they've got a preference issue. Now, in this video, you'll see, let's first listen. Here's Adam Schefter on McAfee talking a little bit about this earlier today.
How does this get fixed? Will the Niners bring in different turf? Will they find a different place to play? Or do they just kind of have to shut up and deal with it regardless?
I think there are a couple of options that are being discussed. I think, the Niners would prefer to stay at UNLV. I think that the league may wind up offering that somehow they share practice times at the Raiders facility, but that becomes an inconvenience. You don't want it to continue to uproot and move around. And again, that'll be up to them to decide. It'll be up to the league to see if it can address it in an appropriate way. I think that we haven't heard the last of it, and let's see how the Niners react once the players take the field. But again, like I was told, there are seams on the practice field, and it feels like they're practicing on a sponge surface.
It's the highest level, Schefty.
Come on.
It's the highest level. You hear players say that around the locker room whenever something happens, like, this is the highest level. Remember, this is the highest level. The Super Bowl is, like us dealing with that turf last year.
It's also interesting. Last year, we're coming up the incident last year where in the Super Bowl, players were sliding around on that field in the Super Bowl. And now, again, when we get to Allegiant Stadium on Sunday and the game is played, there won't be any issues there, I don't expect. But this week, Niners not happy.
All right, there you go. So I think the compelling data in that whole report is that they actually give these practice fields. I mean, this is how exact this thing has become. They give these practice fields scores as far as their conditions. And the average scores of an NFL practice field are in the mid to high 70s. And the Raiders field is considered an 80. And the 49ers practice field at UNLV, the Niners believe, is around a 50. So that is a huge disadvantage for sure. And God knows if there was any kind of injury on that field, on that practice field this week that could impact this game, that is going to be a major talking point come Super Bowl Sunday. But this is already interesting, and the Niners are sensitive to the field conditions. It's if you think about, the Niners, I mean, you think back to field conditions, you think of that 2020 game at MetLife which was a game where they lost Nick Bosa. And, obviously the Niners took issue with the MetLife surface that day in New Jersey. But I didn't know that. Well, first of all, I don't know how the Niners were given UNLV instead of the Raiders practice facility. But if you believe them, the Raiders practice facility is an 80, and their practice facility at UNLV, the field surface is like really scores out at a 50. The NFL basically says, hey, it's not a safety issue. So they've thrown it back on the Niners. But it's interesting because this is a beautiful new facility at UNLV. And then what they did was the NFL put sod over the field turf. And the Niners feel like it's a disadvantage. And, even though the NFL says it's not a health and safety issue, the 49ers are arguing that the firmness of the natural grass is not to their liking, and they feel it is a security issue. So there'll probably be more said about this in the next couple days, I would imagine. But as I said, the Niners hit the practice field today at noon Pacific for the very first time, and they'll be practicing on this field the rest of the week. And all you can say is you just hope nothing happens on this field. I mean, it would just be an absolute disaster if somehow the 49ers lost any player due to the practice field conditions at the Super Bowl. But they're making an issue of it, and it doesn't sound like the league is listening to them. But it is really, really interesting that Kansas City is practicing at the Raider facility, which, is obviously an NFL caliber facility because the Raiders practice there all the time. And according to the scores, that practice facility surface would be graded in the 80s. And the Niners feel like their practice facility field would be graded in the 50s. And that's not nearly as good. So something to watch for sure. I'm sure we'll hear more about this as the day goes on and the week goes on. I don't know if there's anything the league can do. I don't know if there's probably not another field that they can practice on that would be in any way comparable. And we're talking about world-class facilities. The Raiders have have an NFL caliber field. The Niners are going to fly back to Santa Clara and practice there. That's not going to work. What are they going to do? Go somewhere else and try to practice go to Arizona or Reno or one of these places and practice at a college facility? That's probably not going to be great. So they're probably just stuck practicing on this UNLV field turf with the sod over the top. And if they feel like it's, the firmness of the natural grass is not to their liking, maybe, we're going to hear more about this. That's for sure. And I don't know what the solution is. There may not be a solution here. They may just have to cross their fingers and hope none of their players get hurt before Super Bowl Sunday. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to our Las Vegas sponsors as well. ValleyHillRoofing.net and Sharper Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles in Pacific Grove, California. Support our sponsors during this week if you can. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.